Hi, this is Roger, and in this video we are going to study the secondary organs of the immune system. Take a quick second and click on the subscribe button below so that you can be notified when I have more videos like this. And that includes lectures in basic immunology and replies to the audience about questions related with general medical topics, including cancer and COVID. So, the secondary organs of the immune system includes the lymph nodes, the spleen, and some components of the mucosal immune system. And regarding this last one, the mucosal immune system, I'm not going into much details about it, but the only thing that I have to say is that this type of immunity fights the microbes that try to enter our body through the gastrointestinal and respiratory tracts, but also lets some of them to live there, like the bacteria that helps in the digestion process of the food, okay? So we studied in the previous lecture that the primary organs are the places where the immune system is born and then matures. But the secondary organs are the headquarters of the immune system to develop a proper immune response against any pathogen or cancer cell that comes to existence. And all the immunity process. It really helps to think that the immune system works like an army in the context of a warfare. So I would like to show you these schematics here because it really helps to understand how the immune system works in the context of a war. So to fight the pathogens or the enemy, so to speak, initially we have the trenches. They are in the front line of this war. The trenches are the innate immunity that I discussed in the previous lectures. In the trenches, we have the physical barriers like the barbed wire or the parapets. Then we have like some chemical barriers like the ammo shelves. And in the latest, we have some few soldiers. They are the cellular barriers, the cells that are fighting there. So the components of this form of defense are not very big in numbers, but they are kind of useful in their place. But they are shallow. And they're shallow because the enemy may wreck them at some point if they don't get help. So, in order to get help, some soldiers of these trenches, they will leave this place and they will go to the headquarters of the immune system to inform our immune cells how the enemy is constituted. Usually, the soldiers who bring this kind of message are called antigen-presenting cells, or APSCs. So remember that everything that is recognized by the immune system as a pathogen or as an enemy, so to speak, this is called antigen. That is why these cells are called antigen-presenting cells, because they present the enemy in the headquarters of the immune response. And these cells are mostly the macrophages and the dendritic cells. You heard about them, now you know what they do. They present the enemy in the headquarters of the immune system. So these cells leave the trenches and they go to the headquarters to present the enemy. So if the war is in the tissues like organs, skin, epitheliums, something solid, so to speak, then the headquarters are the lymph nodes, okay? And I will show them shortly. But if the war is in the blood, if you have some sort of infection running in the blood, and these antigen-presenting cells take some of this enemy to present to the headquarters, they will not go to the lymph nodes, they will go to the spleen. So the spleen is the headquarter that receives information from pathogens that are in the blood. So both the lymph nodes and the spleen, they are the headquarters that will study the enemy. And they will train the soldiers to fight this enemy in a very strategic and specific manner, while the innate immunity is still there holding the enemy in the trenches. So this needs to happen quite quickly, and this process starts after the first day of the infection, okay? So the infantry is composed mostly by the lymphocytes, T cells like CD4 cells, CD8 cells, and also the B cells, the ones that produce the antibodies. They all compose the infantry army of lymphocytes from the adaptive immunity, okay? So to fight specifically against that particular pathogen and also in numbers, we need the lymphocytes. We need the entire infantry army to arrive there as quick as possible to decimate this enemy, these pathogens, in a few days. So the lymph nodes are the most abundant headquarters that we have, and they are distributed through our entire body. We have around 500 lymph nodes in our body. Wow, that's a very huge number of organs. Can you imagine? We don't have 500 hearts. We don't have 500 livers or 500 brains. 500 lymph nodes. And where they are? Well, they are all connected to one another through an intrinsic network of vessels called lymphatic system. You probably heard about the lymphatic system. And what is the lymphatic system? Think about a spider net. So it's a network of vessels that connect the lymph nodes in our entire body. So if we have this network of vessels, can you imagine? We not only have the blood vessels that transport blood in our body. No, we also have the lymphatic system that transport a different type of liquid, which is not the blood, it's the lymph. And what is that? What's the lymph? Lymph is just a white transparent liquid that is between the blood and the tissue. So when the blood releases the nutrients to go to the cells, it goes across the lymph. The lymph is like a transparent solution that concentrates the nutrients that are going to the cells, or also capture most of the pathogens that are infecting the tissues are captured by these antigen presenting cells that I mentioned at the beginning, and then they swim in the lymph. So if you think in the context of a war, you have the pathogens invading the tissues, and some of the soldiers that are going to bring the message, they capture some of this enemy, some of these pathogens, and they start swimming through the lymph, and they will distribute this information through the vessels of the lymphatic system to arrive in the lymph nodes and present this enemy in this headquarter, okay? But how they swim through the lymph? In the blood it's easy because you have a heart, and the heart is pumping all the time the blood through our entire body. But how we pump the lymph? We don't have another heart for the lymphatic system. That usually is done by the pressure exerted by the contraction of our muscles. So every time that we are moving and contracting, we are exercising, that we are contracting our muscles, we are pumping the lymph throughout the body, throughout the lymphatic system to reach the lymph nodes, to reach this headquarters. So we are facilitating the process where the antigen presenting cells will take the pathogen and bring them to the headquarters. So that's why physical activity is very important as well, because it helps this process. So this figure here is just a representation of our lymph nodes, okay? So we have lymph nodes everywhere in our body. For example, if you get stung by a bee in your neck, this is very close to the cervical lymph nodes here, okay? So it is likely that the antigen-presenting cells of your neck, they will take parts of this venom and they will present in the closest lymph nodes that are available, which is the cervical lymph node. And then specific lymphocytes against the venom will start growing there in the headquarter. They start training against these pathogens, and that's why the lymph node there, at some point, it gets swollen. So always when you feel that the lymph nodes here are swollen in your neck, it is an indicator that you have some inflammatory process happening in your neck or in your head at that particular moment. This is beautiful. And that's all for today. And in the next lecture, we are going to study the anatomy of the lymph nodes and how the antigen-presenting cells, or APSCs, will introduce the pathogen or the enemy in the headquarter to start rising an entire infantry army of lymphocytes to fight the pathogen in the trenches, in the site of infection. Okay? Thank you so much for watching this lecture, and if you have any questions, don't forget to subscribe in the channel and leave your questions in the comments below. See you in the next video. Bye bye.